Conversations. I do want to welcome political activist, public speaker, and best-selling author Megan Fox. How are you?
Hi, Rory. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good to have you here. First and foremost, Megan, it's your first time on the show. So please, and a very, very unique name you have. I bet a lot of people are like, what, the Megan Fox? But it's your first time on the show. Please tell us, about yourself, just about, your career and how it all started, your adventures. And definitely want to talk about your book about exposing the Me Too and kind of squashing that crap.
Well, I am a writer at PJ Media. I've been a writer for many years. I do reporting, journalism, and opinion writing. I've been doing that first for David Horowitz several years ago at Front Page Magazine and Real News blog also. Yeah, David's a great guy. And then when Real News blog shut down, I went over to PJ Media, and I've been there ever since, probably for the last 7 or 8 years, with, the great Roger Simon and Glenn Reynolds, who wrote An Army of Davids, which really is a book that, changed my life, made me realize after I did work in major media before at ABC Radio and Disney Radio and ESPN and WLS, and so I had a background in major media, but realized that the new media was the place to be with An Army of Davids, like Glenn Reynolds had written about, and now I work for Glenn's company, which is really fun. And recently, I've written a couple books, and I have 4 out there that have my name on them. But recently, I have written a book called Believe Evidence, The Death of Due Process from Salome to #MeToo. And this book is, I believe, very important for the time that we find ourselves in, where wild accusations are thrown around and they seem to wield the same kind of power as, a conviction. And it really, what kicked it off for me was the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. The Kavanaugh confirmation circus was such a nightmare. I mean, I believe one of our senators called it an intergalactic freak show, which I think it is the perfect description to what happened to Brett Kavanaugh. And he went from being at the top of his game in his life, very respected and never had anyone say anything bad about this man, to losing his job at Harvard, almost losing his job coaching his children's basketball game. It's like if we hadn't had him sit on the Supreme Court, he would not be fit to do anything else after they got through with him. And I'm talking about the Senate Democrats like Booker and Harris and Feinstein, who dragged women out from underneath rocks to accuse this man of things that no one could prove was true. And in this time of Me Too, everyone wants to there's even a hashtag. It says, Believe Women. We want to believe all women who say they've been raped. Well, I've got news for you. Women lie. And they lie all the time. And they lie about rape, and they lie to put men in prison, they lie to murder men, they lie to do all sorts of terrible things to men. And ignoring that fact is a real danger to all of the men in your life, your fathers, your sons, your daughters. Everyone who has a man in their life is in danger of this happening to them. And so Believe Evidence, I go through history, from ancient history in literature and also history, biblical history and also others, laying out all the famous women, or I should say infamous, who lied to either have men murdered or killed. And then in the second part of the book, I go to the modern day, where I give example after example of women who destroyed the lives of men and were put into prison or committed suicide because of it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Very nice. Keep going. This
okay.
is great.
And I should add that then at the end of the book, there is a really great. I can keep going all night. Don't worry. There's at the end of the book.
I bet you can.
There is a real how-to, and it's not just hey, look at these women, look how bad they are, but I really try to give real advice to mothers out there, of sons especially. That's really my focus, is to mothers of sons and also to men in general, and especially young men going off to college. What can you do to protect yourself from these types of lying gorgons, who will destroy you? And I call it how to harpy-proof your son. And, you need to stay away from these hysterical harpies, and there are things you can do that will limit your exposure to these women. And now it's unfortunate. Now, Tucker Carlson had me on his show in September to talk about this, because I wrote an article called, and this is what started the whole project, it was called How to Christine Blasey Ford-Proof Your Son. And it went really viral, and it talked. Next thing I know, I was in a car being whisked away to a Fox studio to talk to Tucker Carlson, which was just the greatest moment of my life. And
that's awesome.
And, I know, it was really, really cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend like I'm too cool. It was really an incredible experience. And Tucker, he was shocked. He was like, "How can you say this about women? You're a woman. How can you say that you don't trust women?" I mean, that had him falling out of his chair laughing when I said, "Don't trust women." But men, and he pointed this out, men have an innate desire to trust women. And I think, and that's unfortunate for you guys, because, that if your guard's not up, you could be really harmed. And I think that we need to train our sons and talk to men in our lives about how there are some women who will destroy you mercilessly, on purpose, and it happens. It happens all the time. If you want some examples.
It's evil. It's evil. It's so
It's
evil.
incredibly evil. What about Abigail Williams? Abigail Williams, during the Salem witch trials, was responsible for the deaths of 9 people, including animals. Like, this one was unbelievable. She lied about so much that caused a travesty of justice in our country that we're seeing happen all over again. How about Victoria Price? Ever heard of Victoria Price? Victoria Price was one of 2 girls who lied about 9 boys, black boys in Scottsboro, Alabama.
Yep, that was a famous one. Yep.
They said that they were raped by these boys. All 9 of them lost their entire lives to prison time. They were tried and convicted in 3 days by a lynch mob.
And I remember that story, and it's interesting because the Democrats want to say they care about minorities. But that's one example right there. If their whole motto is believe all women, then that story should be brought up every single time they say that crap, because innocent lives of men get, thrown away because of these false and stupid accusations by certain. I'm not going to use any ebonics words, but some of these nasty females. I don't want to use any bad language. But you know what I mean.
I'll give you some words: shrew, harpy, wretch. There's a lot of words you can use to describe these women.
Smelly twats. We can use a lot of things. But no, it's one of those things that we. Oh my God, that it drives me nuts, and it's all about the feminism movement. It's all about the Me Too, and I looked at Me Too as a trend. I think a lot of these girls saw these women in Hollywood and around making these accusations and coming forward with their stories. And then other women were like, oh, I want to be like them. So I don't care if I'm lying. I'm just going to, do it so I'm a part of the trend. Does that make sense?
It did become a way to kind of get your name in the paper, that's for sure. And I think that what started out with a noble, intention. Because let's face it, those tapes that came out with her about Harvey Weinstein and the evidence against him was pretty bad. Some of the guys who were exposed in the Me Too thing appeared to really deserve it. But what it morphed into was just the ability for any woman to hurl any accusation at any man and be believed because it was her truth. Oh my God!
Very true.
If there's one thing in the year 2019 that I never want to hear again, it's it's my truth. I'm sorry, honey, but there is only one truth. There is not your truth and my truth. There's one truth, and somebody is lying, and someone is lying.
Right.
We cannot just throw lying out the window because you want us to believe your truth. No. That's not how it works.
And
Due
let's face
is a thing.
Yeah, let's face it here. The people that are getting false accusations thrown at them is a slap in the face and a fuck you to the victims that have been assaulted, the ones that never got their justice, the ones that actually did have to go through the suffering and deal with that sort of thing. Pam, go ahead.
That's right.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We all know basically the birth of the Me Too movement started with Harvey Weinstein when the story broke on October 5th of 2017. But I'm not sure what many people remember is 9 days before that, on the September 27th, Hugh Hefner passed away. If you all know, Hugh Hefner was the father of Playboy, which has trained men to completely view women as objects and therefore there for their pleasure. Now, when Hefner died, Hollywood just praised him as just such this wonderful guy for women's rights and the freedom, while he's basically training our men and boys to look at us like sex objects. And then 9 days later, Harvey Weinstein dies, and all of a sudden, every woman is a victim. I'd like your perspective on that kind of angle of it.
Well, it's really interesting that you brought that up because I actually do address this in the book. There is a really big disconnect, between what the women, the feminist movement wants to tell us now that they believe, and what the feminist movement has told us for years that they believe. And let's look at the difference. We have a bunch of women who run around wearing vagina costumes. They literally put on genitalia. They walk around in public. They hold signs.
I don't even want to smell them. I don't even want to smell those people.
They have slut walks where they celebrate being sluts, and they walk around either naked or just barely clothed, where their message is that they're allowed to look as slutty as they want, and no one is supposed to give them any attention whatsoever. Yep. They claim that it's an anti-rape march, but what it really is a, let's try and trap you into giving me attention that I can then say is sexual harassment. It's nuts. So these women, they're supposed to be sexually liberated. They've told us for years that they love sex workers. Starting back in the second wave feminists in the 60s, they wanted all women to get divorced. They said that marriage was oppressive and that they should chase the big O. The orgasm was worth everything. It was worth throwing your family away for. It was worth throwing your children away for. It was worth anything to be sexually liberated. That's what we were told, So that going into the Me Too movement, we know that feminists are totally pro-sex, which is why they're totally pro-abortion at any time for any reason, because you should just go get your freak on, girl. That's their motto. Now here comes the Me Too. Now, actually, before the Me Too movement, here comes Trump. Trump wins the presidency, and the feminists lose their damn minds.
I say this all the time, though. The feminists should thank him because Me Too would have never been exposed if it wasn't for him.
Well, that's true. But look at what they did, though. Look at what started the Women's March. I don't know if anyone really knows what started the Women's March, but I've studied it, and I know. Began the Women's March were Trump's comments to Billy Bush on that bus about grabbing...
Grab him by the pussy, baby!
Okay, I can say it. All right, so Trump tells Billy Bush that because he's a wealthy billionaire, there are lots of loose women who throw themselves at him and let him, and the exact words he used was
he's right, though.
Grab them by
he's right.
He's totally right. He's totally right. It's a totally truthful statement. Let's be honest. If we're talking about women, and we all know women who will do anything to be on the arm of a wealthy man. Come on, stop. Just stop. Everyone,
Kathleen
stop
Harris.
with this. Anybody. I mean, there's so many of them. So now they are the women of the feminist left who have always been pro-sex and pro debauchery now get up on their high horse and they get offended and affronted that a sexually active man is sexually active. You've got to be kidding me. So they start this march. Complaining that a well-known playboy that everyone knows for his sexual virility, they get upset that this guy who's well known for running around with playmates. I mean, we've all known this. We didn't learn anything new about Donald Trump. Okay, everyone's been watching him my whole life.
Right.
He's been running around with playmates forever. This is no surprise. Yes. But they find that this all of a sudden they start marching on Washington because a sexually active man was with women sexually. Yeah. That's really what it was about. And to make it worse, to make the hypocrisy even worse, they make the symbol of their march the pussy hats that they stick on their heads. So now we are supposed to believe that these women are offended by the word pussy. They're offended by the idea that a man likes pussy or wants to grab it, or does it with women who let him. Yet they put one on their heads and they march around like fools. This is absurd. And so I hope that addressed your question because to me I saw a huge hypocrisy between what the feminists said they were and what they have now become. And now they've all become the Me Too prudes. You know, the same Hollywood starlets.
A lot of those Me Too people love to have their picture taken with Donald Trump until he went down the elevator in 2015.
Of course they did.
Josh,
and then look at all
we have to keep. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll be brief. First off, I love the book title; it's fantastic. And I mean, here's the deal: and the fact that people would say believe someone because of race, gender, anything, believe them because of they're in a specific group is absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't believe all women. You shouldn't believe all men. You shouldn't believe all whites. You shouldn't believe all Asians. You shouldn't believe all people who dress up as Barney. Whatever the frick. You shouldn't believe any group of for any reason because they're in a group. And the fact that the left is pushing that is so absurd. And especially, they're not even pushing the idea of a smaller group of, they're not even saying believe all, people that have been sexually assaulted and the perpetrator, is punished in court. So they're a real sexual assaulted person. That's not what they're saying. They're not even saying a specific group like that. They're not even saying, believe all people who have had abortions because they know more than you. They don't say that. They say believe all women. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, whether you have a reason to believe or not. They say to believe you because of what gender you are, and it's absurd.
I'm in complete agreement. It's crazy. And, one of the things that I cover in the book also is that along with harpy-proofing your son and keeping your son away from these types of women, I also have a chapter about harpy-proofing your daughters and how to keep your daughters from becoming the kind of woman who would do this to a man, who would put her own self-preservation before truth and honesty and goodness. And, I see a lot in the Me Too movement of these women who are just completely self-obsessed. They're completely obsessed with their own. I don't really think they're that sincere. I saw so many of them who we have seen for years running around on the Golden Globes red carpet, practically naked, wearing naked dresses and showing nipples and cracks and everything else that no one really wants to see. And yet then they go to the Oscars one year or whatever award show it was where they give themselves awards, and during the Me Too thing, and they all buttoned up, high-necked black dresses. They were all in solidarity, it was just so great. This was their time to be taken seriously, and we're not going to be used for our bodies anymore. And at the very next Golden Globes Awards, this last one, they were all naked again. These women want to tell us how to behave sexually. They have no boundaries. These are women who don't even know how to police their own behavior and they have no way not to look like sex goddesses, and they want us to not see them in a sexual way. What do they hide? They've been doing their entire career out of steamy sex on a stick.
Very true. Dr. Bussler, if you have a question, and then we do have to go to commercial in a sec, but Dr. Bussler, go ahead.
I was just going to add, much of this turns out to be a very delicate problem. I mean, some incident occurs. There's generally no witnesses to it. The man has his view of things. The woman has her view of things. usually the truth is, or oftentimes the truth is sort of somewhere in between. You certainly don't want to accuse a man of doing something he really didn't do. On the other hand, if the woman has a legitimate gripe and something did occur, you certainly want to give her voice. There's no witnesses to any of this, so it becomes a very delicate situation.
Well, actually, I don't think it's delicate at all, and let me tell you where I disagree with you. The truth is not in between most of the time. In every single incident story that I have told in this book, the truth is either on his side or on her side. In every single case, these women have lied 100% about what happened. They told the absolute other opposite story. And so I believe that truth is not always in between. I think sometimes, and the majority of the time, someone is telling the truth and someone is lying. And the only way to find that out appropriately is in a court of law with evidence admissible in court. And yes, victims or people who claim to be victims deserve to have their day in court. So that's why there's a chapter in my book about how to help your daughter if she's ever a victim of a crime. If you are a victim of a crime, you must go to the police immediately. You must go to the hospital for a rape kit. You must come forward immediately. You cannot wait 30 years or no one will believe you.
Well said. We do need to go to commercial. Please tell us where they can find your book, Megan.
It's on Amazon. It is Believe Evidence, The Death of Due Process from Salome to #MeToo. And it's on there now. It's trending #1 in the new release category in feminist theory of all categories. So and it's on sale for 99 cents right now for the Kindle version on presale. So get it because it's not going to be this price come Friday.
Very good. Well, we're going to have you back early next week. We have a lot more to talk about. Unfortunately, we are running low on time, so I do need to let you go. But I will get you back on next week, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Rory.